This is my ranking of story-driven, choice-based games that I've played, based purely on my personal experience. Each one is placed from masterpiece to trash, depending on how much your decisions actually matter, how the story reacts to your choices, and how engaging the overall narrative feels. Let's get straight into the list. The Council starts as a grounded historical mystery, where I deal with political intrigue, careful conversations, and hidden intentions between characters on a secluded island. As the story moves forward, it slowly shifts into something more strange and unexpected, which doesn't always land perfectly, but it kept me curious to see what happens next. The dialogue system stands out because choices depend on skills, so I have to think before speaking instead of picking random options, and that makes every interaction feel more deliberate. Exploring the mansion feels rewarding since every room hides clues, items, and small details about each character. Some character models look off at times, but the atmosphere, music, and strong personalities carry the experience forward without losing interest. This one finds its spot in the great tier. Batman: The Telltale series lets me shape both Bruce Wayne and Batman through constant dialogue choices, and that balance between the two sides keeps things interesting the whole way through. The story feels more like an interactive show, where I guide conversations, decide reactions, and sometimes choose how situations play out, even if not every choice changes the outcome in a major way. What stood out most was how smaller decisions shape relationships and how characters see me, which made simple moments feel important. The writing stays engaging, and the voice acting helps bring each scene to life without feeling flat. There are some technical issues like frame drops and save problems, but they didn't completely ruin the experience. This one finds its place in the excellent tier. Little Hope takes me into a fog-covered town where a group of people get stuck and slowly uncover links between their present situation and dark events from the past. The setting feels eerie right away, and the mystery around witch trials and repeated faces across timelines kept me curious to learn more. I liked how the past sequences build tension and show paranoia growing, leading to a strong twist that changes how I see earlier choices. The pacing is a problem, since large parts are just walking with little happening, and the characters feel flat, making it hard to care about their outcomes. The horror relies too much on predictable jump scares instead of building real fear, which weakens the experience further. Technical issues and weak co-op flow also hold it back. This one falls into the mediocre tier. Life is Strange follows a student who discovers she can rewind time, and that simple idea shapes almost every choice I make throughout the story. I kept going back and rethinking decisions, not just to get better outcomes, but to see how different paths reveal new sides of each character. The story focuses more on personal moments than large-scale events, which made the emotional parts hit harder as things slowly build toward bigger consequences. I liked how the game gives space to explore relationships, even if some dialogue can feel awkward at times. The mystery element keeps things moving, while the time mechanic adds a layer of control that most story games don't have. Even when choices circle back, the journey still feels meaningful and worth seeing through. This one easily belongs in the masterpiece tier. The Walking Dead Telltale series focuses on Lee and a young girl named Clementine trying to survive in a world that keeps getting worse with every step. What made this stand out to me was how much I started caring about the people around me, especially Clementine, where even small choices felt heavy because I knew they could affect her. The story keeps building through tough decisions like who to trust, who to help, and who to leave behind, and those moments stayed in my mind long after playing. Even though the gameplay is simple and choices don't always change the main outcome, the emotional weight carries everything forward. The voice acting and writing keep every scene engaging, and the bond between the characters feels real. This one clearly belongs in the masterpiece tier. Heavy Rain builds its story around multiple characters searching for a missing child, and I constantly had to make decisions that shaped how each scene played out without ever stopping the flow. What stood out was how even failing actions didn't end the game, instead changing situations in ways I had to deal with later, which kept tension high in almost every moment. The pacing feels slow early on with simple tasks, but once things pick up, the scenes become intense and harder to step away from. I liked how the dialogue and character actions feel natural, even if some performances aren't perfect all the time. The branching paths don't always change everything, but the different endings make choices feel important by the end. It's not flawless, but the experience stays strong. This one lands in the excellent tier. Detroit Become Human gives me control over 3 android characters, and each one moves through a different path, where my decisions can change outcomes in noticeable ways. I liked how the story keeps switching perspectives, which keeps things moving without feeling repetitive, and it builds tension as their paths slowly connect. The choices feel more meaningful here than in most similar games, since characters can live or die based on what I do, and that adds real pressure to every moment. Some dialogue can feel a bit heavy or too direct, but the performances and detailed environments help carry the experience. I also enjoyed going back to see different paths, since the flowchart system clearly shows what I missed. It's not perfect, but the scale and choice systems stand out. This one clearly belongs in the masterpiece tier. Back to the Future. The game continues Marty and Doc's story with a new time travel adventure, and early on it really captures an emotional side I didn't expect. The first episodes focus on Marty dealing with Doc being gone, which made me more invested in their relationship than I thought I would be. As things move forward, the tone shifts a lot, going from grounded moments into more exaggerated and cartoon-like situations, and that change doesn't always work well together. The voice acting stands out and helps carry the characters, especially with how closely they match the originals. Gameplay is simple point-and-click with easy puzzles, so progress feels smooth but not very challenging. It has good moments, but inconsistency holds it back. This one fits into the good tier. Erica is an interactive FMV thriller where I guide the main character through choices and small actions while the story plays out like a movie. I liked how it tries to blend gameplay with real footage, letting me interact with scenes in a more direct way than most story games. The acting is strong and helps build tension, especially during quieter moments where the mystery slowly unfolds. The problem is the pacing, since it takes a long time before choices feel meaningful and early sections feel like I'm just watching instead of shaping anything. The controls also feel loose, making simple actions more frustrating than they should be. Some plot points become unclear depending on decisions, which makes the story harder to follow. It has a strong ending, but the journey feels uneven. This one ends up in the mediocre tier. Until Dawn takes me into a horror setup with a group of characters trapped on a snowy mountain, and every choice I make can decide who survives the night. I liked how the game leans fully into classic horror ideas, mixing tension, jump scares, and unpredictable events that kept me alert throughout. The decision system works well here, since even small actions can lead to major consequences later, which made me think more carefully before reacting. The characters are interesting enough to care about, even if some dialogue feels a bit off at times. Exploration and quick-time events keep things moving, though movement can feel a bit slow in places. The story doesn't always stay perfectly consistent, but the experience stays engaging the whole way through. This one earns its place in the excellent tier. Tell Me Why explores the lives of 2 twins reconnecting after years apart, and much of the experience comes from revisiting memories and deciding which version of the past to believe. I found the idea of conflicting memories interesting, since it made me question what really happened instead of just following a fixed version of events. The characters feel real, and their conversations carry a lot of the emotional weight, especially when dealing with their shared history. The setting also adds a quiet charm that fits the tone of the story. The issue is that choices rarely feel impactful, since many outcomes don't change much, which lowers the tension during key moments. The mystery itself builds curiosity but doesn't fully deliver in the end. It has strong ideas, but not all of them land. This one sits in the good tier. The Devil in Me places me inside a deadly hotel filled with traps and hidden paths, where a group of filmmakers try to survive while uncovering what's really going on. I like the idea of a grounded horror setup inspired by real events, since it made the mystery feel more believable compared to supernatural stories. Exploring the hotel and finding clues kept me interested, especially when piecing together who is behind everything. The problem is the characters, as they don't feel strong enough to make me care about their survival, which lowers the impact of big moments. There are also long stretches where nothing happens, which slows things down more than it should. Some scares work, but they don't stay consistent. It has a solid concept, but execution holds it back. This one lands in the good tier. Beyond Two Souls follows Jodie and her connection to a supernatural entity, and the story moves across different points in her life instead of staying in one timeline. I found the shifting structure interesting at first, but it can feel uneven since scenes jump before I fully settle into them. The stronger parts come from quieter moments, where Jodie's personal struggles feel more real and easier to connect with. The performances carry a lot of weight, especially during emotional scenes that stay with me longer than the action. Gameplay feels simple, with limited control over outcomes, which makes some decisions feel less important than expected. The mix of drama and supernatural elements keeps things varied, even when parts don't fully connect. It has flaws, but there's still a lot to take in. This one lands in the great tier. The Quarry gives me control of a group of camp counselors stuck for one more night, where things slowly turn into a full horror situation, and every decision can affect who makes it out alive. I liked how it builds tension over time, letting smaller choices stack up before things get more intense. The characters are easy to follow and have enough personality to keep interactions interesting, especially as relationships shift based on what I choose. The story mixes different horror ideas, which keeps it unpredictable even when it leans into familiar setups. The downside is that long sections feel more like watching than playing, with fewer meaningful interactions than expected. Replay value is there, but going through repeated scenes can feel slow. It's still a solid experience, even with those issues. This one lands in the excellent tier. Tales from the Borderlands gives me a story built around two main characters whose paths cross in a chaotic world full of humor, danger, and unexpected situations. What stood out most was the writing, since nearly every conversation feels sharp, funny, and full of personality, making even simple scenes entertaining. The characters are easy to connect with, and their interactions carry the experience more than the actual gameplay. Choices don't always change major outcomes, but they shape how moments play out, which kept me engaged in every scene. I also liked how the story balances emotional moments with comedy without breaking the flow. Gameplay stays simple, mostly focused on dialogue and quick actions, but it fits the style well. Everything comes together in a way that feels memorable long after finishing it. This one clearly sits in the masterpiece tier. Guardians of the Galaxy. The Telltale series focuses on the team chasing a powerful artifact while dealing with their past and relationships, and that mix keeps things interesting. I liked how the story stays focused on one main threat instead of jumping between too many villains, which gives it more room to develop. The dialogue between the crew stands out the most, since their interactions feel natural and often bring humor into serious moments. Choices mainly shape relationships within the team, which made me pay attention to how I responded during conversations. Gameplay stays light, with simple exploration and quick events, but it fits the style. Some characters don't get enough time, which feels like a missed chance. Even with that, the story and character moments carry it well. This one finds its place in the great tier. Game of Thrones. The Telltale series centers on House Forrester, where I make choices that try to protect the family while everything around them keeps falling apart. I liked how it connects to the larger world, letting me meet familiar characters and visit known locations without losing focus on its own story. The decisions feel serious, especially since outcomes are often harsh no matter what I pick, which fits the tone well. Some episodes move the plot forward nicely, while others feel slower and don't add much, which breaks the pacing at times. The characters are interesting enough to stay invested, even if not all storylines get proper closure by the end. It captures the brutal nature of the setting, but doesn't always deliver consistent momentum. It has strong moments, but also clear gaps. This one falls into the good tier. Minecraft's story mode follows a group of characters trying to stop a world-ending threat, but the story and writing never really made me care about what was happening. The characters feel overly childish, and their motivations don't feel strong enough, which made it hard to stay invested in the journey. Some choices slightly change how scenes play out, but most of them don't have much impact, so decisions feel less meaningful than expected. The gameplay sticks to simple puzzles and dialogue, which are easy to get through but not very engaging. There are a few moments that try to build emotion, but they don't land well because of how the characters are handled. Even though it captures the Minecraft style visually, that alone isn't enough to carry the experience. This one ends up in the trash tier. The Wolf Among Us brings me into a dark version of a fairy tale world, where I play as Bigby, dealing with crimes, secrets, and characters that feel far from their classic versions. What stood out most was the tone, since everything feels serious, tense, and sometimes brutal, which kept me focused on every decision. The choices feel meaningful, especially during intense moments where I had to decide how far to push situations or hold back. The characters are strong and well-written, making conversations just as important as action scenes. The mystery unfolds at a steady pace, giving me reasons to keep going while slowly revealing more details. Even when some parts slow down, the writing and atmosphere keep things engaging. It stays in mind long after finishing it. This one earns its place in the masterpiece tier. Late Shift gives me control over a live-action story where I guide a character through a heist by making choices during key moments, and the film style makes it feel different from most story games. I like the acting and presentation, since it feels like watching a real movie while still having some level of input. The setup is interesting, with situations that keep building tension as things go wrong. The main issue is that many choices don't change much, often looping back to the same outcome, which makes decisions feel less impactful than expected. There are multiple endings, but reaching them can feel repetitive since I have to replay large sections again. It works better as a film than a game, but the concept still holds attention. It has its strengths, even with clear limitations. This one settles into the great tier. That's my full lineup of choice-based story games based on how much impact your decisions actually have and how well each story holds up. Some stand out with strong writing and meaningful consequences, while others feel more like guided experiences, but each one shows a different side of interactive storytelling. Thanks for watching.